Okay, it's day 85, and this is part three. And this is just a quick Saturday evening post of potpourri here. And first of all, I wanted to just say uh, Jason Goodman has done an incredible interview here with Larry Klayman. This is the interview I hope that Derek Maltz does with Jason from DEA on Operation Cassandra. If you haven't seen this, this is great. I had even several misconceptions about the Bundy trial. This was just great in terms of resolving those, and all the FBI lying and the local law enforcement lying and the BLM lies. It really is a landmark, and this is a landmark case. And I just want to say to Larry Klayman, you are a hero in every sense of the word. After this interview, you were even more of a hero to me. So I just want to recommend that. It's really good. Now here, I lived in Mount Prospect for a while, and I know a little bit about trucking. I won't say how. But this is the guy who, in our SIPOV, the guy who runs people down in Chelsea, right, is in a business with a guy named Shamanov. This is this Russian Muslim kind of linkage. And it's in Mount Prospect, Illinois. And I'm telling you how close this is. I was on Gulf Road. I went on it every day for a while. I lived there for a while last summer. And it is very close to the Mount Prospect auto auction. And knowing what we know now about Operation Cassandra and buying these cars, these old used cars, using them to transport drugs to ISIS, it's kind of like hidden in plain sight. There's these old cars. Who would want to transport these old cars? It's guns in one direction, and untraceable guns that have been recovered from other battlefields, brought back to Virginia. I think it's going to be Norfolk, and then they're shipped out of Norfolk. I could be wrong. It could be Navy Yard. Could be Norfolk. I think they're Norfolk. But anyway, that's this Mount Prospect Auto Mall. I mean, it just screams that. Now, I'm not saying there's not other things going on with these companies. Uranium, shipping uranium, and when you start shipping uranium and trucking uranium, a lot of other things go along with it. But I'm just, when I saw Gulf Road, and the other one was Bussy Road, which is another road that I was on every day last summer for about 120 days, it just tripped a wire there. Here's a Mazar Awan, and there he is with the Surface Transportation Board. This board overlooks both rail traffic and trucking traffic, which is kind of interesting. And the thing that's very interesting is these people then also have G4S type companies. So I'll get back to that in a second. Here's Imran Awan, and Imran Awan marrying this Nahid Awan, and a very beautiful woman, and in 2001. And she's going to the University of Maryland. Was he really going to Johns Hopkins? Who knows? But she was an American citizen. They're in the Pakistani Student Association. Did Imran fall in love with her? We don't know, but I certainly think he could fall in love with her. I'll show her a picture in a second. So this is another funny one. Johnny T posted about Hillary and uranium-1 is the kryptonite. I believe uranium-1. The reason why everybody says, why so much focus on uranium-1? Because uranium and has the Nuclear Regulatory Commission documents. Trucking has documents. Alcohol, when they ship that, documents. Firearms documents, ATF documents. There's documents along these rat lines. I can't follow the money because I don't have that capability as a law enforcement person, so I choose to follow the uranium-1. That's why I was in Frederick 60 days ago. That's why I was saying Mark Lambert was key. Now, a lot of people said, hey, you got Mark indicted. Well, so be it. If he is a minor conspirator and he will roll over on the larger conspirators and break this uranium-1 conspiracy up, so be it. The stakes are too high. I make a joke here about I wish I would have got up there 35 days ago to interview, which I obviously did. So anyway, here's this person, Awan, that I just mentioned, the Mazar Awan. He starts out at Wackenhut, which turns into G4S, and then he goes to the Department of Transportation. Again, that just seems to be a signature that these security companies are also going into trucking, which is odd. And they also seem to have a lot of DEA licenses. Okay, here's the father of Peter Strokes, and he's meeting with this guy named, I'm just doing signatures tonight, Oswald Do Cantu, and he is an expert in combining data in a big data environment. And what he is doing, he's taking these phone calls and he's taking these texts and geolocating them. He's also taking your social media information, geolocating it, and then also taking satellite, plane surveillance, helicopter surveillance, surveillance from security cameras, and then also nanosats, and combining it all into sort of a movie of your life using geolocation as the key. So are these people all coming to the White House? All the Strokeses that keep coming from San Diego and Corpus Christi and meeting Osvaldo, who later dies a little bit later that year after they meet with him. And he writes this great logistics package as well. So is this kind of the mentor? Is this the kind of the godfather of all logistics? I think he is, actually, and I'll develop that later. I just want to, it's kind of like Oswald Lee Harvey Oswald, only it's Osbald. So just remember Osbald. I just want to say this about these stories that are breaking today about how this is the first indictment for Uranium One. This doesn't happen unless you do the legwork. Unless somebody's up there in Frederick interviewing people, going to the different and making the connections, going to the different businesses, it doesn't happen. And I want to say thanks to Task Force for supporting me in that effort. Here's another guy involved with G4S. This is Ahmed Soliman. He owns a trucking company, not in Chicago, but he owns it in Florida with the Saipov truckers. And again, the same pattern. The G4S, like Mateen, the shooter at the nightclub, at the Pulse nightclub. Also the limo services where we've seen that before with Rayo, Abbas. And then, of course, the obligatory University of Phoenix with the Dershowitz University of Phoenix. And then he's also a DEA licensed person. And when you're DEA licensed, you're not only shipping and transporting 1, 2, 3, and 4 drugs, you also have the ability to prescribe. You can sit out in the parking lot and literally write prescriptions for people to go pick up and then resell. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. Here's the DUNS number. Again, just producing and publishing public information. Okay, so there's that information. Now here's another one, which is kind of a little bit of a, someone said, oh, there's a twin for Omar, and I always think of Abid as the twin for Omar. Luke Rosiak told me that Omar used Abid as a alias at times. Someone said these eyebrows are exactly the same, and they're actually the same person. It's not even a twin by eyebrow analysis, which I thought was interesting. But it's amazing that the American, the U.S. Congress, House of Representatives, won't produce a picture and won't produce an interview and won't produce a press conference for a scandal this big. And again, he has 2 jobs. He's a director of strategy and also personnel. And when I saw his personnel job actually overlooking the help desk, I immediately thought of the MIS department in Chicago, which was the help desk for the DNC in Chicago, for an organization based here in Washington, D.C. So, if you haven't seen this, 85.1, we're getting on the pinky keys of the piano. We're almost to 88 here, so I want to promote this. This is really, what I say here is basically Uranium One went to Iran. I mean, that's the bottom line, and I prove it in that. And then I'll finally say a last little honorific here to Tulsi Gabbard for being a person who's not afraid of the deep state and willing to say, hey, shipping weapons to ISIS isn't such a good idea. It's not a good idea. And also, I think of task force when I think of Tulsi Gabbard, because here's a person who just takes a licking and keeps on taking. She wants to go to get me out of my parallel construction on Ohio, and she's beaten by 4 guys from the Norteños, and then with the Becerra thing. And she decides to come to Washington, D.C. to support me. So I want to say shout out to Task Force tonight.